Hello, hello. My name is Michelle Drew, and I'm your host here on From a Mess to a Message, where I interview inspiring people who have been through a messy middle and they've made it through to the other side where they have a message of hope and inspiration for others. The young woman I'm going to introduce you to today, I'm so blessed. I know that she's recently been interviewed by Nick Santanastasso on a few different occasions, so blessed to have you. She and I met in Boca at a training the first weekend of July, and there was an instant connection. You are going to fall in love with her today. So, Nicole Poulton, thank you and welcome. Thank you
Thank
for
you
it.
so much. Honestly, this podcast, I have been waiting to be able to get on and talk to you. And I love it. I'm so glad I'm here.
Oh, so good. You're gonna change a lot of lives today. I know that. I know that. So
Let's hope,
take
right?
Yeah, definitely. And
Yes,
we're going to talk
yes.
about how that's going to happen as we get into it. But initially, can you kind of take us back? I know the full story. We spent a weekend in very close proximity
Yes.
and both rooming together and at the training. And I've heard your story. Can you take us all the way back to where it started when you were a little girl?
Yeah, of course. So those of you listening, I just want to put out a slight little trigger warning. My experience was, kicked off with sexual abuse. So if that is a touchy subject, just know tread lightly going forward. But my first memories were being sexually abused. So I say it started at 4 years old, but if that's my first memory, it really started from the jump, right? So, um, I was sexually abused by my dad, and along my adolescence, there was, I call it the bouquet of abuse, trying to
Yeah.
dress it up a little bit, but it was physical, it was emotional, it was verbal, sexual, the whole mess of it, financial, spiritual, just all of the different types. And I didn't know that it wasn't normal. Like growing up, when you are raised in that environment, I didn't know that, traditional, call it quote unquote, traditional parents, they don't do that. And I didn't know my friends didn't have those kind of relationships. And so it was just normal. That was just life. And I didn't understand why I felt the way I felt because I knew something was off. You can feel a negative energy.
Mhm.
And so I definitely felt that for a long time growing up. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I was crying in my bathroom, and I had, back then I did not have the understanding of what different medications did, but I was trying to commit suicide. I had a whole bottle of Tylenol I was planning on taking, and ultimately I did throw it all up. It did not work, thank goodness,
Right?
right? But I
Right.
had this feeling of like, wait, like something is going on, and eventually I will tell this story. So because of my inner child, that younger self, that 10-year-old self, that is why I'm here today talking to you. So I just want to acknowledge her. I want to acknowledge you listening. Like, we are all divinely guided, and you're here listening to me for a purpose. And so, to move forward, as time went on, I was just very depressed. I was suicidal. I didn't know how to process my emotions
Mhm.
because honestly, it wasn't safe. It
Right.
was, survive every day, every hour, every minute. And to do that, you could not upset my dad, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to hide a lot of how you feel. And I didn't learn how to process it.
Right.
And ultimately, when I was 15, I really was into sports. I was very athletic. I loved sports that you could do independently because that was like my safe space, right? So I was really
Yeah.
into gymnastics, and I loved skiing, and so one day I was skiing and I actually broke my back. And reflecting back, obviously in the moment that was not ideal, but
Yeah.
reflecting back, it was one of the biggest gifts I could have ever asked for because that now stopped my sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So, right? So it's like this
Wow.
crazy gift. Like, when was the last time, for those of you listening, when was the last time that you really were struggling with something, but you could find the good in it? And maybe
Yeah.
it takes a little bit to do that, but what you're going through right now, the struggles that you're facing, there is some good in it if you look hard enough,
Mm.
right? And so when I was going through breaking my back, it was as crazy as it was amazing because I didn't have this extra added abuse to my life anymore. And
Right.
I say breaking my back, I met my best friend because now I was given a prescription medication. It was back in the day when they were not saying that opioids were addictive. So how wrong were they, right?
Wow. Yes.
But yeah, so I was prescribed Oxycontin and hydrocodone because they weren't totally sure. So they wanted to try me on both so I could alternate and not get addicted to either. But newsflash, got addicted to both. So
Wow.
I was able to numb all of that physical pain from breaking my back, but also all of that emotional pain
Mm.
from the last 15 years of my life that I didn't know how to deal with. I
Right.
started, taking these prescription pills a lot more often.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was going on with the doctors, the kooky doctors I had, but I had unlimited refills. They were giving
Wow.
me prescriptions of 200 pills every 2 to 3 weeks
At
with
15.
at 15 with unlimited refills for over 6 years.
Oh my God.
So,
That piece I
yes.
didn't know. Wow.
It was crazy. And here I'm being told these are doctors who have gone to medical school, who have authority, and I'm a teenager. I was a freshman in high school. So first off, you guys reflect back when you were a freshman in high school, remember the cliques and you're super self-conscious and boys are maybe into you or they're not into you. And it's very emotional and dramatic. I had to go through high school. I had this beautiful metal back brace that was not fashionable. It was so not cute. The tan lines when you go to the lake, it was not ideal. So, my goodness, but yeah, so I was being told by these doctors like, yes, you can take these pills and they will help you because I was also told like I went to physical therapy for, on and off for years. And I was told I would never live without pain. I was told I would never run again. Like I wouldn't be able to do sports. Definitely wouldn't be able to ski ever again. Like all of
Mm.
these things. It was just one hit after another after another. So I really thought like my life was over.
Yeah.
And so I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, people who enjoyed, doing these pills with me because I didn't want to do them alone. And so, I mean, not to incriminate myself, but I did start sharing these medications.
You were 15, you didn't know.
Yes, I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Statute of limitations. Don't call the cops.
Right.
No, but yeah, so I started hanging out with the wrong crowd and we would just all make negative decisions together. And as time went on, I started incorporating more mind altering substances. So I
Yeah.
started drinking, I started smoking weed, I started doing cocaine, I started crushing the pills and snorting that. Like it was
Yeah.
rough.
A slippery slope.
It was very slippery and it happened so fast. And
Yeah.
so, um, you know, over those 6 years, it was just a blur and
Mm.
I was just numb. So it
Right.
felt really good though. And I know that sounds really crazy because here I am, I help people get sober,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be truthful, right? Like there is a reason that we numb. There is a
Yeah.
reason that we self-soothe. And everybody listening, everybody in the world, you guys, we all have something that we don't want to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So whether you turn to drugs and alcohol like I did, or food and TV, or social media and gambling, or excessive spending and porn, like it doesn't matter what it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
We all have something,
And
right?
you had
So
stacks of things.
oh my goodness. I had
Yeah.
so many things because I just needed to do anything and everything possible to not feel
Yeah.
because it wasn't safe to feel and I didn't know how to do it.
Right.
And so I just tried to push and suppress those feelings down as much as possible.
Right.
And so, it was a slippery slope. And then
Right.
ultimately, on my 21st birthday, I had this genius idea to go to Vegas. I was thinking, like, let's take the friends, we'll go dancing. I love dancing. It's so much fun. And where I was living, there was not any places to go dancing. So that was the goal for Vegas is we'll go out, it'll be so much fun. But being there, like all things, you can go a little too crazy. And it was the night of my birthday. I had taken more pills than I had ever taken at one time, and I had drank more than I had ever drank at one time. And I did them together, which is not something that I typically did in excess. And so, it's just to paint the picture, like we get the Uber, they show up, we all take a shot before we go. I go and I take two pills, nobody knows. And then this is on top of all of the day drinking and the drugs I had already been doing all day. We get into the Uber and I just start feeling sick. And the whole way there, I'm thinking, don't throw up, don't throw up. Like you can't afford the Uber cleaning fee. Like I was so broke. I did not care about my well-being at the time. It was just about not being able to afford this fee. And so ultimately we get to the club, we hop out, and now the bass from the music from the club, I'm outside, not even in the building. I am outside and you can feel the bass in the concrete. And so my whole body is vibrating and I feel so sick. It's like I can't stand up. There's no way I'm going inside. There's no way I'm having fun dancing. So it's like
Right.
I got to go back to the hotel. So I go back and then that night I overdose.
Now, did you
And
go back alone or did somebody accompany you?
so it's crazy you asked that. So for 4 years, I thought I went back alone. I was so out of it, you guys. I didn't know that my boyfriend was there with me. So luckily I had somebody, but I
Wow.
didn't know until we talked about it later because he's now my husband. He stuck around through the
Oh.
through the tough times. He had standards, and so he's actually one of the reasons that I actually got clean and, figured my stuff out. But yeah, he was there. And I didn't know
Wow.
that for 4 years after until we talked about it again. And I'm like, hey, isn't that so crazy? And he's like, yeah, I was there. Like I saw all of it. I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I mean, talk about numbing. I didn't even know who was in the room with me at any given point.
That could have
So,
ended so poorly, even above and beyond you dying. Somebody could have really hurt you.
yes. And
Yeah.
and sadly, I lived in Puerto Rico for a stint and I was 18 at the time. And, the only thing to do down there is like go to the beach and drink and go to the beach and drink. And I started, I started doing that and I was 18 and it was legal down there to drink. And so I was thinking like, oh, I'm finally doing it legally, right? And and I had my prescription and so that's legal. And so my filter for what is ethical and what's okay, it got super blurred because
Mm,
my prescription was a prescription, but it is not advised to crush it and snort it and, all of
right.
that stuff. So, but it's still a prescription. So it was a very weird line that I was walking. And then ultimately I started doing cocaine while I was down there. And one of the nights, it was one of the last nights that I lived down there, I was roofied and I woke up in my bed. So whoever it was, like, it's crazy. Whoever it was knew where I lived and walked me in and I woke up and I had a cut on my arm and it was just blood everywhere. I woke up with no pants on, like crazy. And I'm
Wow.
like trying to put the pieces together. There's no recollection of what happened. And I remember like being out with friends and I was told like, oh, we were all over at this pool and like it started to rain. And so somebody picked you up to try and take you to like somewhere that you weren't getting rained on. And then they slipped and like threw you and you landed on a glass table. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? Like that's like why the cut. And then they're like, yeah, and then you threw up. And so then now that's why the no pants. And it's like, what? Okay, but why was I roofied though? So it's like,
Right.
it's definitely, you guys, like it's such a slippery slope and then you get
Mm,
around the wrong people and or you go and you think that your group is great but
right.
you're in public and with strangers and
Right.
so just crazy crazy
Yeah.
crazy but yeah, so the night that I overdosed, I had a huge wake up call. And so I'm in the hotel room. I think I'm alone, but I'm not. I think I'm alone.
That's funny.
And I'm like hunched over the toilet. You know how like you guys like when you have the flu, it's like you don't even care that you're sleeping on the floor in the bathroom. Like you just want to be in proximity to the toilet. Yes. So that is my life at this point. And in between I was in and out of consciousness,
Yeah.
just passing out and then throwing up. And so in and out of consciousness, I hear this voice.
Mhm.
And now I know it was God, but whatever you want to believe, God, source, the universe, whatever. God tells me, Nicole, this is not your life. You
Mhm.
can choose something else. And this was crazy to me because for the first time, I realized that it's a choice. Like you didn't have to just accept what life throws at you. You could
Mhm.
actually design the life that you want. And you
As
could
an
be
adult, right?
as an
When you were
adult.
little, you had no choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't
Yeah.
have to keep going down this path just because X, Y, and Z happened. Right. So it's
Right.
like, okay, you can actually make a change. And it might not be easy, but you have to do it intentionally. It's not just going to
Mhm.
happen,
Yeah.
And so, but this was the first time I realized you didn't have to just live in reaction mode. You could actually
Yeah.
be proactive and have the life you want. So, those of you listening, like, when was the last time that you were intentional about creating your life?
Mm.
Right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of times we just sit in that reaction mode and then we get upset as to why am I not where I want to be? Why am I, there's a whole plethora of things like why are my relationships not the way I want them? Why is my health not the way that I want it? Why is
Yeah.
my job not the way that I want it? It's like, well, have you been sitting in reaction mode a little too long?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
as soon as I got that wake up call, obviously I had to finish out that overdose. You can't just like, oh, okay, I'm fine now.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That would be nice, but that's not,
Not how
not my experience at least.
it goes.
And then I decided from that moment on, like sobriety is the only way for me to actually survive because all of that craziness that I had experienced over the last 6 years, like all the partying and getting roofied. And then this is actually my second overdose. Like it was just crazy. And so realizing like I am not somebody who can take this in moderation as much
Mhm.
as I would love to be able to, right? Like I can't just have one margarita. It's gonna be seven
Yeah.
margaritas and then some cocaine or something.
Yeah.
So um realizing that sobriety is the only way and I didn't know how to do it. And I definitely didn't want that stereotype to come true of, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but like the stereotype that sobriety is boring or to be sober is a fight every single day. You have to struggle every day to stay sober. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, so far life has been a struggle
Yeah.
every day
Yeah.
and life has sucked like every day.
Mm.
So if I'm going to do something different, I'm going to make it fun and I'm going to let this be something that's easy and enjoyable. And
That's
so I didn't know,
huge.
right? Like the
Huge.
mindset that you bring to your challenges will define the quality of your life for
Mhm.
sure.
Wow.
So that's the mindset I brought. And then, that first year I was learning how to process emotions because I hadn't done that yet.
Right.
And there was a lot of anger. I'm an avid journaler. And so it's funny if you reflect back to that year of journaling, it's like so angry versus now it's like gratitude and my goals. And it's just very different. But yeah, so realizing that I could actually enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So as I went, I learned everything I possibly could about, psychology and human behavior and addiction and recovery and why do people do what we do. I wanted to understand not only like why did I react in the ways that I did and want to numb, but why did my dad do what he did? Why did my
Mm.
mom sit idly by? Why are my siblings, like I wanted to put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And by actually having those questions, it helped me heal and actually overcome a lot of that trauma and all of that childhood abuse. And so um as time went on, my sobriety became, like I said, like it was fairly easy and enjoyable. And I was able to actually like be at a party with people who were drinking, and I didn't have cravings and it didn't bother me. And so people started seeing that and they started asking, like, how are you doing this? Like, there were people in my network who had prescription pill issues or who had drinking problems, or they would smoke or whatever it was. And they wanted to know how I did it. And
Wow.
enough, like that happened enough times that I realized, okay, there's something here. Like what I'm doing is working, not just for me, but for other people. And
Right.
so I realized, like, okay, I got to teach this to the masses, right? Like we have a lot of resources. We have AA, we have rehabs and detox centers and sober living homes, and not saying that any of those are bad, right?
Right.
Like different people are just different. So
Right.
our solutions are different. And for me, I didn't know that those were an option. I was 21, so I didn't know, like, oh, a sober living home. Like I have no idea what that is.
Right.
And and then B, like some things just didn't work for me. So like for me, like AA, NA, it didn't feel right. It
Yeah.
didn't, my only meetings that I had access to were like at 8 p.m. in a busy city, and I would go alone, and it just felt like I'm putting myself in a weird spot.
Yeah.
So sometimes things just don't work. And so this just was another opportunity of like, well, here's another resource that it is working for people, and it is virtual, and you don't have to disrupt your life at all. You don't even have to tell anybody that you're getting help if you don't want to. It's like
Right. Right.
you're able to actually find the root of the problem, overcome it, and have fun. And so I started this business, and now I'm just like sharing the story and,
Wow.
going for it.
And you know what? I think that is so key because a lot of times the reason people are partying is to have fun. And they
Hmm.
think that if I stop partying, it's not going to be fun. That's huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
And one thing that you said that I want to kind of circle back to, you asked yourself a question. And doesn't Nick always tell us you're one question away from changing someone's life? And your someone
Yes.
was you
Hmm.
in that moment in the beginning. That one question changed your life forever. And now you're able to change thousands of people's lives, if probably
Hmm.
more than that at this point. Um, and I know that I don't know if you would bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. You have a 100% success rate.
Hmm.
That is
100%.
incredible.
Isn't that nuts?
It's
Like,
good.
it's so good, but it's so crazy. And people, like, I have this hallucination that, like, how, right? Like, people might think, how is that possible? When you look at the oldest recovery group around is AA, and they have, I think it's like for somebody who got sober and stayed sober for over 10 years, I think it's like less than 8%. And I know there's a stat of like a meth user, only 2% of meth users will ever get sober and stay sober. So it's like, how can I have a 100% success rate?
Well,
And
you're making it fun
it's
and not
fun.
drudgery and like I've got to go to the
Yes.
meeting. And
Okay. And
yeah.
also, I think what a lot of these programs or a lot of these resources are getting wrong is they focus on the substance, when in
Mm,
reality, it's not about that at all. Like,
yeah.
I could be doing drugs, and somebody else could be smoking, and somebody else could be drinking, and somebody else could be eating chocolate, and it's all the same. Like I look at it
Yes.
really from, obviously there's differences in how it affects our body, right? So you can overdose from meth and it's a lot harder to overdose from chocolate. But if you look at your goals and your values and what you're doing with these behaviors, it's the same root problem. It's just how
Yeah.
intense do you need to go to be able to numb that?
Mm,
So in my program, it's like we do make it fun because that is so important to actually learn. Like imagine, like you guys listening, like remember when you were in school and it was an activity that you didn't enjoy, like how much of that did you actually retain? Versus if it was made into a game or it was made fun, you probably remember it.
yeah.
Just like those little, like I remember, I don't remember what grade it was, but we learned like multiplication, like little jingles.
Yeah.
Like I skate and I skate and I got sick on the floor. Like 8 times 8 is 64. Like, so it's fun, right? But I would not have remembered that at the time if there was no jingle. So making
Wow.
it fun is so important, but also realizing if we go back to what the root problem is and we identify what needs are being met through
Mm.
your behaviors, we're able to identify, okay, so this is the problem, this is how we solve it. And then our core human needs, we can have them met in different ways. So the way that we get clarity is so unique in the program
Mm.
that I teach. And so I think that that's why we have 100% success rate. Like it is so insane, but
Yeah.
I can't stop when it's when it's working
Right,
this well.
right. So many people
Yeah.
need you. That is
Mhm.
amazing, and I'm so proud of that for you. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and um, your husband stayed with you through all of it.
Yes, that
Your then
crazy guy.
boyfriend and now
Yes.
husband's
You
kind of
know,
walk that walk with you.
he was the reason I stopped doing cocaine because at the time, like I got sober in phases. So when I overdosed, that was me cutting off the prescription pills. But
Oh,
I had gotten off of cocaine much earlier. Like I was using it a ton. And then um, I told him about it because I was very functioning addict. And so then I told him about it and he said, like, Nicole, this is your life. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want, but I'm not going to be with someone who does cocaine. And that was the first time in my life that I heard drugs are not cool. Like
yeah,
we all heard that growing up, like, oh, it's cool to smoke, it's cool to drink, it's cool to whatever.
yeah,
This was the first time that I'm like, oh, wait, like
yeah,
somebody doesn't like that. Somebody thinks that that's, a deal breaker.
right.
And that was really intriguing. And I loved how he had standards and he
Yeah.
had expectations for his partner. And
And he
so
wasn't going to tell you you couldn't do it. It
yes,
had to be your
it
choice.
had to
That
be my choice. Yes.
that was
So
very
I
wise.
ultimately I chose like, okay, well, I guess I'll figure out how to stop doing cocaine.
Right,
Yeah, and then
right.
he stuck with me through all of it and
Wow.
he is a trooper for sure.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And one thing that I think is it's important to note that, and we talked a little bit about this in Florida, that when you tell somebody, "Oh no, I don't drink," they're like, "What?" Well, it's kind of like,
Hmm.
"What's wrong with you?" Now, if I said to you, "I don't do cocaine," you'd be like, "Oh, yeah, okay, fine."
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I was like, "Yeah, no, no, I'm good. I don't drink."
Yeah.
It's people think you're weird, and it's like
Hmm.
that's crazy.
It's the only drug you have to explain why you don't do
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's crazy,
And
crazy.
I used to have a little bit of fear or apprehension about talking about it.
Yeah,
And so at the beginning, it's like, oh, well, I'm driving, so like it's fine. I'm
gotcha.
driving. I would make up some excuse. Um, and so then people started thinking that I was pregnant. I'm like, okay, well, I got to come up with something then. And
Because
so
my belly's not growing anytime
yeah,
soon.
like they're gonna find out in 9 months that that is not the problem. Oh, I ultimately just did some self-reflecting and I'm like, well, what's more important, my health or other people's opinions of me?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so I also then came to this realization that the people that I surround myself with, if they have a problem with me not drinking, are they really the people I want to
yeah,
surround myself with to begin with?
right.
You know, like I
Yeah,
would much rather surround myself with people who encourage me to go after my goals. And we don't have to have the same goals. Like I
right.
would be totally fine if everybody else in the party or everybody else at dinner had a glass of wine or whatever. 2 glasses, 10 glasses. I don't
Yeah,
care. It's your life.
right,
But
right.
for me, it's like I want people who lift me up and support me
Right.
and support my goals and they're on the same page as me. And so when I got sober, I did have to filter out some friends because
Mm,
they wanted to do cocaine with me or
wow.
they were using me to get the pills or whatever. Like,
Mm,
sometimes it's actually good to go through that shed
yeah.
and level up your circle of influence for
Yes,
sure.
For sure. And look at where you're hanging out now.
Yeah, in rooms with Michelle, like
No,
so
I
much
meant, I
better.
meant Nick.
Well, I mean, you're there too, right? Like the whole circle, the whole environment, everybody who's there is meant to be there, and we are all on the same page.
Yeah,
Like if
it's an
you
amazing circle.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
look at how we are all chasing goals and we're all serving and helping other people, it's like the quality of person
And
is
cheering
so
each
high.
other on all the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So where can people find you on social media, your website? Everybody knows somebody who could use
Yes.
your help and 100% success rate. Hello. So
Yeah.
where can people find you? I'm going to get your links and put them in the show notes also. But if anybody wants to just jot it down right now,
Yeah. Yeah. So my website will have all of the little doodads and all the things. So there's a ton of free resources and then information about how you can actually get started. And so that is NicolePoulton.com. That's NicolePoulton.com. And then also on social media, obviously, like with today's day and age and the internet, I am all over the place, but Instagram is typically the best one. So that is just Nicole.Poulton. Um, Also, you should definitely reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to give a free gift if you want my climb method ebook, which kind of talks about, how do you actually get started and going through little exercises. It's totally self-paced, completely free. I would love to give that away to you. So you can get those in three places actually. I'll give you, Michelle, the link to put in the show notes. That will also definitely be on the website. And then if you email me or DM me the word, let's say mess, DM me the word mess in Instagram and I will send you the ebook because, we've got to help each other out. And I think that this process that I take people through is so powerful that even this ebook, which is the high overview information, like it's still, you'll get so much juice out of it and you'll get a lot of clarity about where you're at.
wow. Love that. Love that. And I have a feeling you're going to be getting a lot of messages and pings and
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
For sure. For sure. Is there anything that I didn't ask or bring up that you hoped that I would, that I maybe missed?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the only thing that's really missing, I mean, I could tell stories forever, right? But when it comes to the message, because that's what this is all about,
Yeah.
I want you guys to know, like those of you listening, I know you can do this by yourself. Like, you can do it by yourself. You're a very strong, capable person who can do it alone. But why would you make it harder? Like you don't have to do it alone. I have been there. I did it alone. I struggled for a long time trying to figure this out. And I did things out of order completely. And I made mistakes. And now I have this system where it is in the chronological order that would make sense to help you heal and overcome these struggles. So yes, you can do it alone. Yes, you are very strong and you are very capable, but why make it harder?
You can condense time for people.
Yes,
Yeah.
so much time, you guys. It
Yeah.
took me so long to figure this stuff out. And you can get through it in just a couple months. Like it is so nuts, the time
Wow.
saved. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's like being able to take your experience and condense time for people that they don't have to go
Mhm.
decades. Couple
Yes,
of months.
yes. Just a
Yeah.
couple months. Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
That is
That is it. It's so nuts.
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yes. So anything else as far as a message that you want to leave people with, a message of hope or inspiration?
Yeah, I'll tell one more story if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I I had this friend in high school and we saw each other every single day. Like clockwork, obviously. We saw each other at school and then every day after school I would go to her house. And that was just nice for me because it kept me out of
Yeah.
my house.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed her company. And as soon as I broke my back, I saw her one more time. She came over, she brought me some ice cream, and I couldn't go back to school because you can't really do PE with a broken back, right? So I saw her one more time. And then, as time went on, we were attached to the hip, and then breaking my back, I lost that friend. And I bring this up because we think that what we have in our life, whether it's good or bad, we think that they're going to be there forever. So we
Mm,
think we're going to have these struggles forever. We think we're going to have these problems forever. But there could be one thing, one question, one action, one incident that happens that could change everything for you, good,
mm,
bad, or neutral, right? Like it could be the smallest little thing that changes 99% of your life.
mm,
So, in this situation, obviously, that was my friend, and I loved my friend. But as time went on, obviously, I had to go through the problems that I went through because that's what brought me here. And that's what ultimately helped me heal. So, it needed to happen. But for you struggling, maybe you're struggling with some kind of addiction. Maybe a friend of yours is struggling. Like, what if that one thing was just sending this podcast to them? Like,
mm,
what if that one thing could actually change their life? What if it could change your life by downloading the ebook? Like, it can take the tiniest little bit of action, the
mm.
tiniest new thought pattern to change everything. So, where in your life do you want to change and upgrade? And what is that tiny little action that you can take that would make all the difference?
You are a woman wise beyond your years, young lady. I could listen to you for hours. And I know we talked before we started recording. You're
Yeah,
like, we could do this for like
we really
hours.
could forever. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But thank you so much, Nicole. I know that you have touched so many lives with your message today. I believe that with every fiber of my being. And I think that your inbox is going to be blowing up.
Yeah. I'm just so grateful to be able to spend this time with you and then all of you listening. Like it is so, so fulfilling to be able to share my story and help you overcome these struggles because that is really what it's all about. Like when I got sober, I decided I am living a life with sobriety and purpose. Like those two things are my mission. And so
Yeah.
being here and doing both, it is just like I'm so grateful, right?
Oh,
Like so grateful for this opportunity.
thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate you.
You as well. Thank